Okay. Good evening, everybody. I call this meeting to order, and if everybody will stand. We'll do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Great. Well, I want to welcome everybody tonight. And the first order of business is the oath of office. Mr. Ellis, will you take care of that for us? Okay. I want to say we had 3 excellent candidates for the interim position. I think it's like a 2-month position. And the board was really happy to be able to appoint Mark to fill that position for the next 2 months. So thank you.
So Mark will come up. So please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Mark Gunderson,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
to support the Constitution of the United States
and the state of Washington,
and the state of Washington,
and will faithfully perform
and will faithfully perform
the duties
the duties
of a school board member
of a school board member
of the Process School District number 116
of the Prosser School District number 116
in the county of Benton,
in the county of Benton,
state of Washington,
state of Washington,
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
You know, if we just had a little less room.
You're going to have to go back first. Okay. The next order of business tonight is the approval of the agenda. I'd entertain a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Move to approve the agenda.
Motion by Jess,
Seconded.
seconded by Andy. If there's any of the board members have a question about the agenda? Hearing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Thank you. Yes. All right, communications, Mr. Ellis.
We have no communications at this time.
Thank you. The next part of the meeting is first reviewing the protocol for addressing the board and then the hearing of visitors. And then, so as always, this is a time for the community to share their comments with the district. Your views and interests in education are important to us and your schools. Whether you visit for the purpose of bringing information to the board, solving a problem, or simply to see what's going on, we hope you'll feel welcome and comfortable. So if you would like to address the board, the first thing we ask is that if at all possible, you contact Mr. Ellis prior to the meeting and notify him that you would like to speak during public comments. However, with COVID and just the challenges that we've all faced, we have also said, if you're part of the Zoom audience and you would like to address the board, you will have your time to be able to do that also. When you're welcome to are identified to come forward and speak, please say your name first and spell your last name so that it's correct in our records. We ask that you do not reflect adversely on the political or economic views, ethnic background, character, or motives of any individual. You need to keep your comments concise and non-emotional. And it's best, like I said, it's best to call the superintendent's office prior, but I realize that's not always possible, and we do want to hear from folks. And so I would open up the hearing of visitors. We did have one community member that did address, contact Mr. Ellis and asked to be able to speak tonight for, during the hearing of visitors. So I'm going to start with Adriana Miller. And Adriana, please remember to keep your question or your comments concise. We do try to limit this to 2 or 3 minutes is all. And you'll be the timekeeper, Mr. Reynolds? Okay. Adriana, if you're on, we would love to
Okay.
hear from you.
Yes, I'm on. Sorry, I had to log on under my husband's. Anyway.
Adriana, can you wait just a minute? We're getting the volume turned up. Go ahead and keep talking.
Okay. So I just
Okay.
want to, can you hear me?
We can now, thank you.
Okay. I would like to encourage the district to create a couple of community forums so that the community can be better, I guess, better informed on how the construction is going specifically for KRV and Heights, and can ask questions such as how often do building committees meet, and how is there collaboration in community or communication between the construction company and the schools? For example, when power and water are shut off, etc. And then also a COVID committee so that community members can know how info is collected and disseminated, and also know how families are contacted if their child has COVID or has been exposed to someone with COVID.
Thank you very much. We will get back in touch with you. That's they're great ideas. They're always someplace in the hopper, but it sounds like we need to bring them forward more. And I will work with Mr. Ellis and we will get back in touch with you on that, Adriana. So
Okay.
Thank you very much for sharing tonight.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to first address the people that are sitting here. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to address the board during the hearing of visitors? Okay, no, thank you. They get to talk later anyway, don't they? Do we have anybody in the on Zoom that has indicated they'd like to address the board?
My name is Lisa Galbraith, and I would like to address the board.
Lisa, oh, great, Lisa. Could you spell your last name, please, for our records?
Yep, it's G-A-L, B as in boy, R-A-I, T as in Tom, H as in Henry.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
Please try to limit your comments to 2 or 3 minutes, all right?
You got it.
All right, thanks, Lisa.
Yeah, thank you for hearing me. I'm speaking today as a concerned parent and a physician who's currently working in a hospital that is a hair away, literally, from declaring crisis standards of care. I'm concerned because I believe that the superintendent is operating under the false and quickly outdated theory that COVID transmission is not occurring in schools. My evidence for this is that that transmission is occurring in schools is the recent development of the Othello School District, which just went 100% virtual as of today. And that was due to COVID outbreak that occurred in the school and not from outside transmission. I wanted to let you know that this has kind of been a trying week in my household. My high school daughter, 9th grader, received an email from her Spanish teacher that notified the students that she had tested positive for COVID and that she would be teaching from her home. And this was never communicated to the parents. I realize this is outside apparently a policy for a notification of COVID exposure. But when I went to go explore where the COVID policy was, both on the website of the district and the high school, I was unable to find any policy. I was thankfully accepted by Mr. Bailey at the high school unannounced. I showed up there and he was able to speak with me, and I really appreciated that. And he gave me some very informative information, but I feel like if I wasn't able to find it, that there's several other and hundreds of kids, parents in this district who aren't able to locate a COVID policy. Finally, my daughter also attended a soccer game as a soccer player yesterday in Othello, and it was not communicated to the parents that the school was having a COVID outbreak and going to remote learning. And I'm not sure I would have sent my daughter to Othello if I would have known that that would have been the case, but that was never given to me as an option. Finally, and I should have brought this up ahead of time, I understand that there's a policy that's a state policy that desks in the school district are supposed to be maintained 3 feet apart from each other. And when I went to my 5th grade daughter's back to school night, those desks are 3 feet apart, but they have 2 children sitting at each one of the desks so that they're not maintaining social distancing as required by the state policy. So to wrap it up, I just would like to suggest that the district make COVID policies readily available to parents, even possibly emailing what those policies are out to all the parents of the children in the district. I also recommend that a mechanism be set up for remote learning for sick and patients that are, or patients, for students that are quarantining from COVID exposure. I don't think that it makes any sense that we were fully remote for a time, and now if kids test positive for COVID or are having to stay home quarantine, that they have no way of attending class, which is just going to lead them to get further behind, which obviously is not going to be good for their mental health. And finally, I agree with the previous speaker in that there should be some sort of COVID or coordinated COVID response team that could be led by the school nurses. I'm even willing, and I expressed this to Mr. Bailey, to be a part of helping to do contact tracing or to help coordinate some sort of response. But RSV season is quickly approaching. We're going to have more sick children. Also, the COVID exposures in the schools are increasing. And I really think it behooves the district to stay ahead of these things. And that's all. Thank you for listening to my comments.
Thank you very much, Lisa. All right, do we have anyone else that I'm turning to you because
Yes,
our
this is
secretary-
Catherine. This is Catherine Thomas. I would like to speak.
Okay, we have Kathy. Okay,
Yes, Catherine Thomas.
Kathy, could you spell your last name or say your last
Sure.
name and then spell it?
It's Thomas, Thomas. I actually sent a statement to Heidi Chapman early this morning, and she had told me that Matt would be reading my statement, but apparently that communication never occurred.
No, I can. Catherine, I have your statement right in front of me. If you'd like me to read it, I was going to wait until all the people who wanted to speak online had spoken, and then I was going to read your statement. Would you like me
Okay.
to read it, or would you like to read it?
I'll read it, please.
Okay.
I'll just read it directly. So I have 2 students at KRV in kindergarten and 2nd grade. And this is going to be somewhat of a repetition of the concerns already stated. But I am very concerned at the lack of reporting and transparency around the incidence of COVID in the district. Given the current environment and rate of COVID in the community, I believe it is imperative that parents are given the information of COVID infection within the school district. We should have an understanding weekly of how many staff students are out due to COVID, what buildings, what percentage of staff students it represents, and if those transmissions occurred while in the school environment or at an event. I had contacted the school nurse shortly after school started to find out what type of reporting would be done for the parents or community. And I was informed at that time that there wasn't any, and that the only way I would be contacted or informed of any COVID activity would be if it was determined that my student had been in direct contact with a known COVID case. To me, that's really unacceptable to me, given the decisions we as parents are having to make around keeping our children and community safe. Parents, of course, do not need to know the names of those with COVID, but it is certainly appropriate for parents to know if COVID is causing student staff to be taken out of school. As a parent, I shouldn't have to rely on word of mouth from teachers and staff and piece together other information floating through the community to begin to have an idea of what we are dealing with in regards to COVID in our schools. As well, at what point will the district determine that they may require students to return to remote learning? Has a threshold been set? Who will make that determination? I've already heard from one teacher that they are surprised that they haven't yet heard that they are going to have to return to remote learning. I don't think that they were joking. I hope that the rates of COVID in the school district are low, but without the district providing that information, we are only left with conjecture. There needs to be more transparency from the school district. The school board should demand that transparency so that parents in the community are well informed as they deserve to be. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kathy. Do we have anyone else in the audience? Okay. Well, thank you everybody for your comments. we will move on to reports tonight. And the first report is the Assistant Superintendent's report for curriculum and instruction.
Good evening. I have three quick things. One, we, right up till the time before school started, and actually some makeup training in the last 2 weeks. Thank you very much to Connie Hatchell and Pauline Chenier. All of our paras are compliant with the para training requirements for the fundamental course of study. Paras are required to get 14 hours, 2 years in a row, so a total of 28 of the fundamental course of study. And we had some challenges because we had people, when we had the initial training, they were gone. Then we had people who were maybe out with COVID or something else and were gone. And so bless Connie Hatchell's heart, she did the training 3 times to get everybody trained. And all of our new paras, except a couple of them, have all their 28 hours, even the ones that were just hired in August. So that's gone very well. We'll be working this year on anybody new will have to get their first 14 hours. And our experienced paras will now get their 3rd set of 14 hours. That can be other types of topics. It's not specific to the course that the State Board of Ed prescribed. So that, thanks to that, Marcy in my office has also been really great at helping keep that organized. And it is it's like a little bit like a merry-go-round. Someone's getting on, someone's getting off, and there's 10 different courses. And so that's been really great. We had a pretty good week last week with competitive grants. I applied for a college and the high school expansion grant to help bring more college and the high school classes in, as well as expose people, our students and our parents to know what we offer for college and high school. And we received a $22,000 grant to do that. So we're going to be offering some college and high school fairs and things like that to help expand that, as well as hopefully get some more teachers qualified to teach some courses. And then Eric's here. He applied for a competitive dual credit grant. And it's a grant to help expand our dual credit, our dual language program as it moves on up in through middle school and high school. And that includes providing funding to help so our paraeducators earn their bilingual or ELL endorsement, their teaching degree. So there'll be funds to support that. That's $200,000. So Eric's here, so that was great. So those are both good news.
Great, thank you. Good job, Eric. And you too, Deanna. All right, we're going to move on to the Assistant Superintendent for Business and Operations, Mr. Allen.
Thank you. So I have the July financials. I recognize that it's almost the end of September. But I do have July for you, and then we're working on closing the year end through August, and that takes a little more extra time because of the year-end adjustments that are made with the grants and some of that. You'll notice there's a lot of bills to vouchers to sign. Some of the vouchers are for the 21-22 year. There's also some that are invoices charged in August that we actually charge and pay and charge to the 2021 year, but they're bills that are paid in September. So we accrue those expenses back to August. But as far as July is concerned, I guess the big point, and it's been the kind of the same song that I've been singing the whole year, is that our expenses compared to the previous years are a lot, 3 or 4% lower. So that's where our savings has come in for this current school year, meaning 2021. And you'll notice that our fund balance is 4.7 million. I would be ecstatic if we can keep that. But typically, like I said, we have some bills that are paid in September, but we charge those back to August. So that is just a direct hit to the, unless they're grant expenditures. Just maybe one comment. If you look at the page after the graph, it shows some broad categories, but towards the bottom is, sorry, it's so small, but it's expenditures. And our material supplies and operating costs for the month of July are, $1,080,000, which is the highest for the year. But, well, a lot of those monies are grant funded. And so you'll notice specifically like in the state grants, the 4,000 codes. The state grants were $961,000. So it kind of offsets is what I'm trying to say. So don't be too concerned with that large expenditure in that material, the MSOC column, because we collected a lot of that through the grants. So it kind of offsets. Like I say, we'll, by the end of October is when I need to have the financials completed off to the ESD and Pasco, and then they forward it on to OSPI and Olympia. But I'll have a year-end report for the board as soon as I can get all that done.
Well,
That's the good news for
I just
July.
want to, I just want to add something if I can. I know this is July, but we're looking at July last year and July
Correct.
this year.
Correct.
And last year we had just a little over $2 million in ending fund balance. And this year we have 4.7 million. And so that's, I know a lot of that's ESSER funds, that's commendable that we're staying. And I know we have a lot of extra things that we had to buy for using ESSER funds at the end of the year that aren't reflected here, but
Correct.
I appreciate you doing a great job.
The other item is the enrollment. So another good news for September, the full-time equivalent students. So just a quick reminder. So for example, we have a student that we count that as far as head count, but mostly at the high school level, maybe they have running start or they have a partial schedule. We only can count the students that are equivalent to a full-time student. So you might have like half, maybe they're running start, so we'd only get to count a half a student, even though for head count they're one, obviously. So these are full-time equivalents. We go through the math on that with their schedules. The budget was 2,356 for the district. And for September, we're at 2,396. So 40 students over. There still might be some little nuances with the online, that's still, again, this count date, this is a snapshot as of September 7th. The first 4 days, or I should say the fourth day in September, but for the rest of the months, it's the first count date of the month. So September is an anomaly, but all the other months are the first school day in the month. But 40 is a lot better than 40 less. So I'm feeling really good about that. You can see though, I'm still on the very top slide, that little green dot, that's where our students are compared to the last, since 14-15. So our enrollment obviously has still dropped pretty dramatically since the 14-15 year. So, and you can see also our typical pattern is that the enrollment keeps dropping throughout the year. So if we remain, in a positive number, of 10 or 15 above that, I would feel very good about that. So that's the enrollment. The last thing I want to mention is I know that the board has asked for a report on the public records requests. The first meeting of the month, I'm trying to get, and correct me if I'm wrong, Peggy, but I believe the request is to try and figure out how much each request has cost.
Some will be different than others, so yeah.
So I'll try to have a better report than I did the last time, which was pretty broad and generic. The attorney, I've asked him if he could break down his review fees and letters and so forth by request. So that would hopefully get the answers that the board is asking for.
And then that's a report that will, you'll present at our first meeting in October.
Yes,
And then the first of every month thereafter.
yes.
All right, thank you very much.
So dumb question, Craig. Without identifying each one like by name, is there a file number or something for each report that could be?
Well, the other thing is we can certainly present, I mean, ironically, it's a public record of everybody that has requested also.
So we can go ahead and put the names
So
to
we
them
can-
if we
yeah,
chose
the
to.
names are certainly on there.
Okay.
And we did have community members that asked to see the actual names of the people making the request.
Sure.
So
And that'll be on, we'll also present a log.
Okay.
And I think we want to kind of have a running total like the last 2 years, correct?
Right. And then just keep rolling.
Yeah, let's keep going it forward. Yep, so I'll certainly do that.
Thank you.
And the reason for that, that's all unfunded. Those aren't things that you could typically budget for.
Correct.
So when those types of requests come in, that money comes out of the money that it's basic education for supporting kids. Okay, thank you.
That's really all that I have.
Craig, did you want to address the Inspire negotiations as well as the property valuations?
Yes, we can talk about that. So we contracted with a real estate firm in the Tri-Cities to evaluate most of our properties, our vacant properties, come up with the valuation amount for that, an appraisal. And those are continuing to be received throughout, the following months. I can't remember, Matt, I think there was like 7 or 8 maybe specific properties that we've asked them to appraise. They've probably got maybe 5 of them done now. And that certainly would be one thing that we wouldn't want. We'd want to have a discussion, probably in executive session, on those values. Not so we wouldn't tip our hand, right? And so those are ongoing. I know we talked maybe a month or 2 ago. Inspire over at the Whitstrand property is requesting a 15-year lease. And I know our initial response was that the board was only really interested in a year. They would like to come and talk to the board, if the board would be open to that, maybe at the next board meeting, just a brief conversation. Maybe that'd be helpful just to know what's going on, and they can talk about what their needs are, and we want to be partners with them, of course.
Yeah, and it might be, I'm thinking it might be helpful for them to have a pre-meeting with yourself and probably with Matt, so that you can help answer any questions that they might have. So when they come, we can just kind of review the initial questions and then some of the responses to those questions. I think it'd be a more effective meeting. What about you, Mr. Ellis?
Yeah, we can. Craig and I had an initial meeting with them. And at that time, we didn't know about the board's preferences. So we brought that information back to the board. What we heard was probably nothing over a year. And we did want to increase that. We did relay that to them, but their proposal still is around 15 years. They would like to secure something if they were going to move new modulars onto that property.
They have agreed to increase the rent, which we haven't had an increase for quite a number of years. So
I think for those people that are zooming in that haven't heard the rest of that story, the reason we want just a year at this point is because there was a lot of concern with the Whitstrand construction and the impact of that. And our priority, obviously, is first at the school, but we do understand and appreciate the work that Inspire does also for children, getting them ready to come to school.
Right.
But our priority is making sure that Whitstrand, that construction process is taken care of first. Okay. That makes sense?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. That's all that I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else you'd like to add to that? Okay. We're going to move on. Thank you for your report. We're going to move on to the rest of the reports. And the first report I want to put in there is a child nutrition report. Darlene wasn't able to be at the last meeting. Normally, we're going to do principals one meeting and then directors at a separate meeting so that we're not here until 9:30 at night. Okay, all right. So go ahead, Darlene.
Good evening. So, did you get a chance to read my report? So we're settling into the new high school. I also wanted to thank the maintenance and the custodians. They moved the fridge and the freezer, or the fridge and the stove from KRV over to the old high school. So now we have more cooking over there. So we do cooking like right on time cooking rather than cooking at 8 o'clock in the morning and our food sits in the warmers and is transported over there. So the students are getting fresher cooked food over there. We are also dealing with shortages with our food and our supplies, just like with our wash machine and our dryer that still hasn't made it here yet because of labor shortages. Right now, our staff at KRV is serving out in the playground area because we can't get into the kindergarten wing yet. So when is our expected time to get into the kindergarten wing?
Dan Purefoy, who is the construction manager through Construction Services Group, had proposed a date of October 1st. The building would start to open up. We probably need to at some point have him or Dax Logston come back in and represent about the progress, as well as start to develop conversations around Whitstrand and the plans for Whitstrand.
Okay, that's great. Right now, we have 3 open positions that we're interviewing candidates to fill. And we do the Bethel Church second harvest each month. The next one is on October 5th. It's at 8 o'clock. If you know of anybody that would like to volunteer, please have them sign up. On August second harvest.
Make her happy.
Excuse me for just a minute. Can you make sure that all the are muted? Thank you.
On our August second harvest, we provided food for 797 individuals. In September, we provided food for 579 individuals. So this is great for our community. Also, we'd like to invite everybody on the board to come visit us or come and help us serve on the week of October 11th through the 15th. It's National School Lunch Week, and our theme is Wild About School Lunch. We'd be happy for you guys to come and put an apron on and serve food with us. You have any questions?
I don't. Does any of the other board members have questions? Thank you for always doing an amazing job.
Thank you.
And please share that to your folks that work for you.
I definitely will. Thank you.
Yeah. All right, now we're going to move into the principal reports, and Whitstrand is first. We can. Oh, I can.
I think you guys lost your camera. We can't see the meeting room.
Okay, we'll work on that, Alicia, but we're going to go ahead and continue. Go ahead, Mr. Jordan.
So looking through the board packet, I noticed that many of the principals are going to be talking about the same thing. So I'm just going to highlight a couple of these that are on my list. And The first one is the subs and the coverages. It's been one of the successes that we do have a permanent sub in the building. We're also covering a lot. So that's just still is a challenge. And each day we're working on that, on how to fill those classes with other teachers, myself, covering paras, and just that challenge. And the other principals, like I said, we'll also be talking about that. This fall, we were able to get some of our assessment data back from iReady, which is, it's been nice that we're been able to give that assessment and get some of that data back. And also some of the formative assessment data that in our PLCs. And what we're noticing is there is a gap. And I just wanted to let the board know that this is probably going to be a long process, because some of these scores and some of these formative assessments that are coming back are even lower than what I was expecting. But so it's going to be a long process, and we're going to work hard to get those best practices going and implemented. And part of that is that PLC time and brainstorming ways that we can address these students' needs through this year. Success is having the kids back. We're continuing the work that we focused on last year with the priority standards and bringing those forward. And some of the work with our math practices. We're going to continue that work that we were doing last year. I want to thank Thrive for our PACS training and our PACS Heroes training. And I also believe it was the trauma-informed practices that they also, all of those were very beneficial. And full-time counselor, I want to thank you allowing us to hire that extra full-time counselor. He has stepped in. He is addressing many needs across the building, not just the needs of the students, but also the teachers. He's all over the place. It has been a fantastic experience so far. Breakfast, food service has been wonderful. Lunches are going. We have breakfast at the school. Even the people that we've had out that have subbed, we've had several people that have been out, and even the subs that have come in have done a fantastic job keeping that going. And we're really not missing a beat. I want to thank the maintenance crew, because when we got back, the grass was quite long, and I was wondering if they were going to bail. But they were able to get a vacuum out there, and they sucked up that grass, and it's wonderful. So those are the challenges, the main challenges, and then some of the successes that we've had.
Thank you.
Questions?
Any questions for Mr. Gilman? Okay, hearing none, thank you for your report. We will move on, since the desk is wiped down, to the Teen Riverview report with. And she's on Zoom, so. We'll be with you in just a second.
Okay, can you hear me?
We can, thank you.
Thank you. And I apologize for being on Zoom tonight. I have 2 sick kiddos, so they needed their mama. I'm going to start with our successes. They are very similar to Kevin's. It has just been a huge team effort to get our school up and going, both at KRV and at the high school. It's taken, our teachers, our staff, custodian, maintenance, food services, nurses, everybody to make it successful. So we are up and rolling, and we're continuing to work through some of those challenges and tweaks, but it's looking better every day. We have started to collect some data and do iReady testing and DRA testing. So those are 2 of the things that we'll continue to look at once we get those completed to help move our kids forward. Kind of the same thing that Kevin said, that the kiddos are lower than what we expected. So we'll really work in our PLCs and in our teams to make sure that we are using our best practices to help to close that gap. We have gotten word that we're getting closer to moving back to KRV for our kindergartners and some of our interventionists and specialists. So we're excited for the new KRV wing to be open and ready for us. and we will start to make plans for that and start communicating with parents and the community on that move as we get closer to it. And then some of our challenges, the same thing, we just have had a lot of staff that's been out, a lot of coverage, internal coverage. It's been great to have a couple roving subs that have been helping out, but it's been a lot of internal coverage that we've been having to provide on pretty much a daily basis. So, and then just turning the old high school into a new elementary school has been a challenge. It's been great to work with Jody and the Heights staff, and we've put a lot of things into place that have helped, but it's every day is like something new. And some of the things that maybe we didn't, like unforeseen things that we didn't really expect to be problems for our elementary kids living in a high school. So, but we're continuing to redevelop our plans and tweak our plans to make sure that we ensure the safety and provide students with the best learning that we can. And then my last little challenge is just, we've had a couple construction challenges. We lost water one day. We've lost internet a couple days, but I feel like we've figured it out. We've put a plan into place. We were able to bus our students out to use the restrooms. But I know I need to make sure that we have a clear plan in place for those things, because I'm sure that that's not the first time that that's going to happen this school year as we're in a building that is under construction. So, and that's pretty much all I have for today. Any questions?
No, thank you very much, Jessie.
Yep, thank you.
All right, our next report is from Jody from Foster Heights, AKA Foster Heights Riverview High School.
Okay, so I feel like I can just say ditto to Kevin and Jesse's report. That was great. One of the big things I want to focus on is our staff. That was a huge success. Turning a high school into two elementary schools has been a challenge, but our staff has been great. And I think that they have really rolled with it. They've been super patient for those unforeseen issues. And when we come up against, a challenge, they're great at coming together and trying to solve that challenge or that difficult situation. And I do want to give Darlene and her crew, we have had to move lunch, not around, but how we enter the kids and how they exit. And okay, let's do 2 lines. And they've been great to work with. And so I just really appreciate, I've had our parents come together because they're the ones that are in there going, no, this isn't working. Let's solve that problem. And so I just really want to thank our staff, and you guys should be really proud of them. I know I am, that we have just been able to kind of pivot on a dime in a lot of ways, especially with dismissal and the buses and trying to figure out how we could best do that in the most efficient and effective way. So that's been a great, just the staff has been a great success. A permanent sub, yep. And we have a student migrant or migrant student advocate this year for the elementary schools. Mr. Gilman and I kind of joke because I keep him, I've kept him. And so he has been fantastic. That's a new position. He's been great with our, I have a group of 4th grade boys that he's really working with. And so he's been wonderful. I'm really pleased with that. And our custodial staff, again, that high school and moving stuff. They've moved a lot of things and they've just done a great job, and they're on it. Once we need something, it's boom, it's done. And so our custodial staff has been fantastic. Some of our challenges, like I've said, just the logistics of combining 2 schools. Mrs. Wilson and I are on the phone probably every day, or at least 4 out of the 5 days a week before 7 o'clock, kind of talking about what our day is looking like, subs, can you, and what we need to get done for the day. But with that said, is we have 2 schools, and so that was kind of just the logistics and communication and stuff. So those are the kind of the highlights for me. Do you have any questions? All right, there we go. Mhm.
Great. All right, since everything's wiped down, Mr. Denny, we'll let you talk to us about Housel. Yeah, I know. Thanks, Jody.
There we go. All right. I'm gonna sit back a little bit. So the first are challenges that we submitted, and I've had a couple here just in the last couple of days, some that have come up. But challenges are just that. They're not obstacles that we can't get around. They're just different ways that we need to approach some of the things that we've typically done in different ways in the past. So the first 4, I would title these under maybe COVID, if you would. So the way we communicate, the way we meet, the information to all, we're using virtual means. So all of our staff meetings, all of our trainings, all that are virtual now. So there's a piece to that where, just like we look back here, you can see so many people at a time, but I can't see the frustration in a staff member's face. I can't see the elation if they have that as well. So it's a challenge for us to be able to communicate clearly and effectively, but we're getting past that, and we've become more adept at that over the last year. Subs, we've already kind of covered that. Last Friday we had, through a variety of reasons, 13 certified teachers help. So we ended up getting that covered. There's an email chain or a text that goes around from the principals in the morning. I need a sub. Does anybody have a sub? Yes, we have one. Nope, never mind. It just got covered. We need it back. So we ended up covering 30 class periods internally that day, which is basically 5 teachers' positions. So the stress on our staff is, is pretty high. We haven't had a day like Friday, thank goodness, and we hope not to anymore. But the whole building pulled together and made that day work. Karen Weinbender, our secretary, starts at 6 in the morning, and she checks on and starts calling people right away. And so she's asking staff to trade, their prep time or whatever they might be. Hey, can you pull in some, different students? What can we do with the classes? And our staff have stepped up and been phenomenal with that. Hit on a little bit already. Students and staff in quarantine and isolation. How are we getting them? The information that they're missing in class, that instruction, packets of homework, making up when they return. There's a loss there. So we're working as a building to find ways to creatively address that and give those students that opportunity to get that instruction, that information whenever they come back. Also, in this library as an example kind of this, we have a lot of facilities that change shapes through the course of the day. So our north and south gyms start out as a breakfast cafeteria. Then they magically transform into classrooms till noon. Then they become a cafeteria again, and then they become classrooms again. And then in the afternoon, that's where we do all of our sports, and they become gyms for competition. And so we've got more of those probably than we have in the past. And so again, a challenge for us, not something that we haven't been able to overcome, but a different way of working on that. Technology, I'll hit that real quick. So we're using the 3 portables. We didn't really have plans to use those. We are using those. One is a classroom and 2 others for support staff that we've added this year. And so making sure that the Wi-Fi and all of that is working out there. We have a health class with 40 students in it. All of them are online with an online curriculum. And so that's one. These TVs, we pull this one out as soon as the meeting's over and put it in a classroom because Cindy Dean had gotten us a grant that allowed us to have 37 brand new short throw projectors throughout the building. And as we know, everything is lagging behind. So we're waiting for those to come in, but every class will have a brand new short throw projector, as well as a new projector in the North Gym that is like movie quality. So we're really excited to get that technology in there. Last week in Scott Hudson's security officer report, he had indicated that we were down some radios. So we still need to get 14 radios, about $6,000, so that all of our staff can have a radio. miscommunication in the requirements of the grant and turning in all the radios that we had already purchased out of building funds. So there was about 14 that we were going to use that we needed to turn in. So we'll get those working with Mel, who's our radio expert. We also identified that there's a little bit of a radio dead spot, if you will. The whole building is made of cinder blocks. And so from out almost at the highway back here to Crystal and I's office, we get some dead spots. So Mel's going to bring in a repeater to let us try out and see if that works. He said it will take care of our issues, but it's one more thing to purchase. So let's see. Right now, with it not having the 14, though, we do have a plan. We've given them out, and we'll continue to finish handing those out. So if a classroom is back to back, we give it to one of the two. So they're consistent around the building. So we're not without, like an entire wing doesn't have them, but we're working to fill those spots in. Smarter Balanced assessment usually is a spring assessment for us, but it's in the fall. It's actually last spring's assessment that has been moved till now. So we're testing 6th graders in science and then 6th, 7th, and 8th in math and ELA. The assessment window is much shorter. It's a couple days of testing instead of 5 or 6 days, and we'll be testing in October. And so in the months of September to October, we'll be iReady testing, SBA testing, doing hearing and screenings, pictures, healthy use survey. So all those pull from our instructional time. So we're trying to get those completed as quickly as possible so we can use that data for instruction. In addition, one more challenge that we have is we were selected to be a National Assessment of Educational Progress school this year. So all of our 8th graders will be tested on February 24th. A swarm of test proctors from the NAEP will show up with computers, and we will do a 2-hour window test for math and a 2-hour window test for our 8th graders in ELA all on one day. So that'll be a challenge for us, and we haven't had to do that before. A couple things left. Traffic around HMS. We knew that it was going to be higher with the brand new high school up the road there. The first couple of days, we had a lot of parents that wanted to bring their kids to school, and we had parents that had never seen it before. But there's as you come in the front doors, there's a little information center, and parents were in front of it with their kids taking selfies and stuff. So that has slowed down, and so it's getting better. But we've had to double staff our crosswalks. We've had it where crosswalk person is on one side and a car comes across, and so we've had to double stop the crosswalk so traffic can go this way, but we're stopping them both going north and south when we're allowing east-west traffic. The same with the south crosswalk up by the softball field. The line of cars are there waiting to turn into the middle school, and the crosswalk specialist walks out, and traffic is flying by the other way. So we have 2 crosswalks coming out and stopping both sides of traffic. The biggest issue there is the people that are going around Housel Middle School parents to get to wherever they're going. So a lot of the issues we have happen throughout the year. This summer, I was sitting in my office and you just watch people drive right through the 4-way stop out here. So it's been delivery trucks, people in the community. It's not all the time, but it's enough that, it's a little nerve wracking. So we've put extra staff out there to be able to support that. We also contacted the police, and they've been phenomenal. They've been showing up before school, after school, talking with our crosswalk guards, talking with staff, talking with Scott, just really being a presence. And I think that has had a huge impact on the safety out there. So safety has been our number one thing, and we've been able to improve that area. The last one, we, as a district, changed everything we did with busing. And Amy came in and said, here's a new route we're going to go. We sat down in this room over here on that whiteboard and mapped it all out. It's been almost perfect. There's a couple of things that we're going to talk about, but that drives our school day, and it drives what Darlene does. And so Amy and Darlene have been phenomenal. They're drivers, they're workers. It's been a tapestry that has woven itself very well, and it's because of their leadership that we've been able to get there. Successes, I'll go through these quickly. Some of these we check off, and then we move on to the other challenges. So I don't want to minimize these, but I'll go through these pretty quickly. Number one, students are in person. We've got the kids here, and we can look in their eyes and see the fear or the elation or the whatever it is, and we can see them, but we don't have to have them turn on their cameras. They're there. So that has been a huge shift over where we were last year at this time. So in-person instruction, academic supports. We have to get creative because we can't just have them all come back and sit real close to the table, but we're providing academic support and assistance in the classroom, social emotional support. We've got our curriculum in place. We're doing check-ins, we've got interventions. And so that was something that we were really missing last year. And when we presented in December, it was clear in the number of Fs and the absences and all that. And that has been a huge change for us. Single entryway, we're still using the main front doors as the only way in and out, so we can make sure everybody has a mask, they do their temperature checks, hand sanitizer, and that has been working very well. But the key to all the work that we're doing with all of our COVID protocols, but also how we're dealing with close contacts and positives, comes from the nurses and the nursing staff. Those guys are lights out phenomenal. And they're doing work that is probably 3 or 4 times, but they've got it down and they're doing the best they can. And I've probably got 3 emails tonight while we were sitting here in the meeting. They are working their tails off, but they're phenomenal at what they do. In each classroom, we have hand sanitizer. So you come into a class, you sanitize in and you sanitize out. Just like this, the teacher walks around and hands everybody a cleanly rag. They clean up their desks. So the kids coming in have a clean desk that doesn't have anybody else's germs on it. They clean their own germs, so nobody's cleaning for anybody else. Smart Pass is an e-hall pass that we have. Right now, we just give kids a sticker and have them put it on the door. When there's 2 stickers, you can't go in. There's too many kids in there. This will actually allow us to set and monitor the number of students that are being let out, and it won't let you get a hall pass until the number of kids that have checked back in on their hall pass are there. So the teacher doesn't have to go out, oh, no, I see 3 kids down there, wait. It's all electronic and it's all monitored. I can sit in my office and see how many kids are out, know where they're going, what they're doing, and so we're just implementing that this week, but that's going to be a huge time saver for us, knowing where everybody's at. We're looking for a full year of our curriculums. 2 years ago, we got until March, and then we had the shutdown. And then last year, it took us a lot longer to get through it. We only came back in April, May. So we're praying and hoping for an entire year to really give these kids a good year of our scope and sequence for our curriculums. We got a new updated health program. It's digital material, and I kind of talked about that out in the portables is where Kathy Esparza is teaching that. That's going to be a huge upgrade for us. Trauma-informed practices. PLCs, looking at those interventions and enrichments for our students. iReady assessment, we've finished ELA. Math is underway this week, and then we'll have that data. Talked about subs in the building. Breakfast and lunch at school has been huge. We gave them away last year in a bag. We hope that they made it home. And I know that some kids had half of it eaten by the time they got onto the bus. Now we know that they're getting a good square meal for breakfast and lunch here at school. We're able to monitor that and help the kids that maybe even something more than that. Which brings me into Mustangs for Mustangs. Brett contacted us and said, we have a food pantry that we're going to support at every building. So we've got a full food pantry here with like 35 packs to go home over the weekend. So that has really taken a burden off of a lot of our students and families, but we have room to move that out. And finally, we have our athletics and our clubs going again, really engaging a lot of our students. So a lot of excitement about having them in person, getting back a little bit to normal, dealing with the challenges, but we're starting to see those successes come in that we've been dreaming of for a year and a half.
Any questions for Michael? Thank you, Michael. It's very interesting. Mr. Bailey, when he gets everything cleaned up, you come up.
I'm doing well, thank you. I did add some things to my report here, but informational purposes. I wanted to talk about freshman camp real quick. Freshman camp is something that we've always done and traditionally to help prepare our freshmen for life at the high school. As far as culture, as far as behavior in the classroom, behavior at athletic events, there's a whole gamut of information that we go through and just try to build the relationship with students during that time. This is led by our leadership classes and our ASB students. Typically, whenever possible, when we've had the class, this also involves our link crew kids. We do not have link crew this year, as in a couple of years past, but we are still planning on running freshman camp. We did change that, so we rescheduled that due to smoke. And since the smoke, we have now run into a concern. We wanted to make sure we were taking extra precautions with COVID. So we decided to split that from a half day with the entire freshman class to a half day with half the freshman class in the morning, half the freshman class in the afternoon, just to make sure we limited the number of students. We also decided to make that a masked event. Even though it's outdoors and the guidelines state that anything over 500, we have to have masks. Even though we will be under 500, we are still going to require masks of our students at that event. So I just wanted to inform you of that. We do have a couple tests coming up. We are offering the PSAT again this year, twice this year, to our sophomore and junior level students. Sophomores are the goal class for that. On 10/24, that'll be the first test. We have not determined when that second test will be. And the ASVAB is another test that we'll be offering to our students at least twice this year. The ASVAB is a test that also counts towards a graduation pathway. If students score a certain score on the ASVAB, that's one of the pathways in order to graduate. I want to say there's 7 different ways to meet the graduation requirement in terms of the extra, not just the credits that they have to receive, but we have the SAT and ACT testing, ASVAB, and a number of different ways. So it's nice that we're offering that to our kids. I'll move into the challenges now. Like everybody else, we have the same challenges in terms of health, in terms of keeping our students and teachers healthy and assessing the level of that healthy living as they enter our building. We are still taking temperatures. We're still doing our due diligence to try and keep everybody in the building that is, keep everybody out that is feeling sick. I had my first student that walked in since we started this whole thing. My first student that lit up my temperature checks. First time ever I've seen that. So it was kind of interesting. But we did take that student and we're immediately putting them into the protocols and following protocols on that student. So that also led to a success in terms of how that process worked. So health of the students and staff is paramount in our building, and quarantining those students and staff who are sick. Same issues with subs and coverage throughout the district. I think some of that comes with fears in our community and fears from the substitute teachers as far as, even when somebody's ill, they automatically think that is COVID related, even though it may not be. And so sometimes our substitute teachers don't want to even sub if they're worried about COVID, which is understandable. We are still working on getting all of our equipment at the new high school. Chairs still have not shown up yet. So we are still using our folding chairs that have been rented by the company who we bought our chairs from. So we're still waiting on those. The good news is the second bullet that I put on there was the weight room. The weight room is underway. They did serious work on that over the last 2 days. And I believe that weight room will be set up and ready to go by the end of the week. Just today, they put all the half racks in. So we now have 12 half racks in the weight room. The dumbbell racks are in the weight room. All the equipment is there, minus the platforms. They're still working on the platforms and the floor. But it is much closer and it is a beautiful weight room and we're excited to have it. I'm going to go back up to that first bullet point and talk about the areas that need to be addressed in the new building. It seems like any new construction, you're finding these areas as you go. For example, our second floor lights are on a different schedule and those lights keep turning off. Shaking heads. We had some students that were in the bathroom and the lights just decided to turn off on them. So we're working on the lighting schedules. We're working on the door locking schedules and trying to modify those, making sure everything is working on the same page. Mostly system management pieces. We do now have our cameras up and working. And that has helped tremendously. I will bring a couple things up that have been on the minds of our community members recently. I know that we've had those in multiple buildings, not just the high school. There is a nationwide phenomenon, I'll call it, called devious licks. You're gonna have to help me here because I'm not quite sure. Is it a TikTok trend? It is a TikTok trend where students are stealing from the high schools or stealing from schools, and it has to be something from the school. They steal it, put it in their backpack, take video of it. We have had a couple instances of that. We have received all of that information from students. Videos have been shared with us, and we were able to get all of that equipment back. We have not lost any equipment. So even though that's a challenge, it is also very heartwarming to have our student body react in such a way and help us in this process. It feels sometimes like you're on an island as staff. And in this case, our students want to keep our building nice as well. And they're really helping us with that. We've been modifying our entry process. Now that we're down to one entry, it has created a funnel for students, and it has been very difficult at times to do multiple things. We are really working on our tardies and the tardy process versus the late process. You're tardy if you are 1 to 10 minutes late for class. You're absent if you're over 10 minutes late. And there are sometimes lines coming in the door. After lunch, it has gotten way better since we've been modifying our process, and we're very happy with that. I think just yesterday was the best day we've had. I actually left Mr. Funk on an island all by himself, and he handled that all by himself. And I walked out expecting to see a huge line, and he says, "Whoa, you should be gone more often, Mr. Bailey." So I'm going to hold him to that, and I'm going to be gone from here on out. Just kidding. But it is getting better, and we're working through that. I think students are realizing that we're serious about tardies and serious about being in school, and they're really doing much better at getting back in time for class. Again, just to echo what Michael said, students are here. We're excited to have them in the building. It is very exciting to see their faces. It's far different. I've had so many parents, even parents that have had concerns and are in my office talking to me or on the phone, have also communicated to me that they're just grateful that their children are back in school, and they're doing so much better now that they have that social interaction and the ability to speak face to face with the teacher. So I know people are grateful for that as well. We just even today continued a discussion on the new building and the new spaces, new teaching spaces, and trying to figure out and learn how to more effectively teach. I had one teacher come to me and say, we have this beautiful 21st century building, and I feel like I'm teaching the same way I've been teaching for the last 25 years. And so it led to further discussions on how to get outside of that mentality, how to change their teaching. And it was a very refreshing conversation that we then took to the whole staff. I included, if you have a chance to go to that link in the Commons area, I did include that from Mr. Crook in his physics class. He was doing the bowling ball, and we now have the opportunity. He built a pendulum using a bowling ball and talked about potential energy with that group. And it was really neat to see and have, concrete, a concrete pendulum that you could use, and a lesson plan that was, hands-on, and kids were able to see that because he was able to build a pendulum using the facility in the Commons area, and it was really cool. So we're looking at the other areas as well and how to more effectively use those. Trauma-informed practices I put on there as well. We are in week 4, and since week 2, we've been working with the new building intervention team that I created this year to work on that pyramid of interventions. So we're building that out. There are a number of people on that are not teachers. It consists of administration, support personnel, and community members. We have members of Thrive, and Gear Up has also been helping us with that. But a number of individuals are helping to build that out and come up with a process that will work for us at the high school to try and get kids the help that they need, not only academically, but social emotionally as well. So we have taken the pyramid that many of you have seen, the pyramid of interventions, and we split that into 2 sections now. One, when we identify students that need academic help, they'll go to this area, and social emotional, they'll go this way. And so we're working on building that and putting those systems in place. Huge thank you to kitchen staff, lunchroom, and the custodial staff. They're all doing a great job. I'll move on to the recommendations. Moving into a new building gave us the opportunity to discuss the procedures, safety procedures for the building. We did recognize again this year the turnover in staff, put gap training on this. I think it's imperative, if this is a policy that we are going to continue to have, that we need to retrain our staff. I have spoken briefly with Mr. Ellison and Mrs. Flores about this. I just wanted to put it on there. Glenn and his team are more than happy to lead the training. So I wanted to just reiterate that that is something that is needed and hopefully we can work through. And then the last one that I also wanted to address, this has also been on the mind of our community, is the dress code. David and I brought this at the end of last year by student request. It seems that oftentimes every year almost, we have students that want to revisit the dress code. And I'm hoping that I just put it on here with the hopes that it is something that we will review, that there are kids and community members that would love to be part of that discussion on what that looks like. And it's been at the forefront of our student and community mind as a whole, especially over the last week. So I think it's something that would be very pertinent at this time.
I have a question.
Yes.
How is the whole lunch on campus, off campus? How is that all looking at the high school?
So that was part of the discussion on the pyramid of interventions and our building intervention team. So currently we have all of our freshmen and many of our sophomores and upperclassmen that stay. The lunchroom is very full. If you come over at lunch and look at that. And so we currently only have 1/4 of our population, probably more than 1/4, but currently 1/4 of our population staying on campus. And we are, as we build that pyramid of interventions, that's where we will pull those kids in. I talked to the NHS advisor even just today about using the NHS students as mentors and as tutors. Gear Up works with the 10th and 11th grade. So we're going to start doing lunch tutoring at that time, as well as many teachers in our building do offer their lunches up for that lunchtime tutoring. And part of the pyramid of interventions would be, self-directed study time, lunch study time versus escorted time, lunchtime study time. And so all of those things will start to take place at lunchtime when we get that rolling. So
Have there been any major issues with about that volume of kids leaving campus at lunch for the community?
No, I don't feel like there has. I know the traffic has increased and caused maybe some headaches for Mr. Denny over at the middle school, because they all go out, one of two ways. But it has helped the businesses that are closer to Foster High School. I've had positive feedback from them. Many kids, the kids that were leaving campus before and that can drive are still leaving campus. So it's been a change for them to realize the distances and when I need to get back. So it hasn't affected the community quite as much as it has affected us and our procedures, trying to retrain students on when they need to be back and what that expectation looks like. It is, and it's getting better. It is, and I guess our lunchtime has gotten tremendously better over the last 4 weeks. At the beginning of the day, we still run into some issues. Students are still getting used to an earlier start time because we are now the first drop off. So we started high school 10 minutes earlier, if you recall. So that has been definitely a change for some.
Thank you. Does anyone else have questions for Mr. Bailey? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we are moving now to the superintendent's report. Mr. Ellis.
So one of the first things I want to talk about was just the realities of leaving the building. One of the reasons why we asked the principals to share these challenges is to kind of paint the heaviness of the tasks that they've been saddled with this year. If you can imagine, they're trying to address the learning losses of a pandemic while there's a variant and the pandemic continues to go on during the pandemic. So you have learning losses and this also a possibility of even perhaps maybe shutting down again. There are labor shortages and we aren't exempt from that. They've had to scramble for substitutes. They've had students and staff continue to get sick. They've had new buildings and construction to deal with. And they've had parents on both sides who've really made their opinions known to them. So it hasn't been easy for our principals. You've heard those challenges through that. And so I just applaud their efforts and I think we all owe them a debt of gratitude On top of that, we're continuing to try and push on with our work with Wilma and the consultants and our instructional coaches around instructional improvement and the school improvement planning. So it's been heavy, and it's been heavy the past few years. Probably right now, it might be the heaviest. We're getting back in, and yet we have these big, large-scale construction projects going on. So that was the first thing I wanted to address. Second thing I wanted to address was some of those comments that we heard during the public comment. We've had students and staff who are coming in contact with the virus. As you know well, we've had to reschedule football games. And we've also recently decided that we would be going virtual with our conferences to mitigate the risk of spreading coronavirus. So I've been working with our labor partners around establishing thresholds and even upping the safety standards within our building. I've been working with the school nurses and technology around perhaps establishing a dashboard much in the same light or much in the same respect like Richland School District has done, to have those posted. As you know, there are barriers with HIPAA and reporting. If contacts happen at school, we actually come into contact with some of that information. However, we can't share. We run into barriers where parents may not want to test their students. And if they do test them, they may not want to disclose that to the school. So there are some barriers there. In addition to that, one of the things that we're concerned about is trying to protect people's anonymity. In a small community, people tend to talk and know each other. And so that's also a concern. Vaccinations and exemptions, we're continuing to work on that and move closer to the October 18th deadline. So we're continuing to collect employee information and religious and medical exemptions. We are meeting tomorrow, Craig and I are, if there's any board member who would like to sit in with Patterson to discuss their contribution to the high school bonding effort. We still have open negotiations that Craig and I are working on closing. And we do need to focus and put some effort towards that. Principals, admin assistants, building secretaries, safety and security officers, our athletic coaches, and our directors and exempt staff. So we'll be working on that. One of the last things that I wanted to cover, and I actually want to thank Brian Bailey for covering the vandalism or theft trend that's taking place. So I didn't have to cover that. And that's another thing that they're dealing with at the secondary schools. The last thing I wanted to cover was the Wazda Conference that's coming up. And to try and get some consensus or an opinion if the board would be interested in going to that. They're offering an in-person option. They're also offering a virtual option. So that will be in Bellevue, and it's November 18th through the 20th. You don't have to make a decision now, but please put that on your radar because we will be trying to schedule that if that's desire of the board. Last thing, I had the opportunity on Monday to travel to TriTech, and we were approved as one of their partners. So we have more spots for students who want to do that hands-on learning, whether it be welding, nursing, dental assistant programs, culinary, all those different programs that, as Brian Bailey had referred to, kind of those hands-on, minds-on programs that students can get involved in. They're very specialized. So we have more spots there, both in the morning and the afternoon. So yeah, I was happy that we got approved as partners and we're part of that group now. Are there any questions about any of the information that I presented?
Well, thank you very much. All right, board member reports. I'm going to go ahead and start with Dean.
Just had two quick things. I attended my first Zoom meeting for Thrive. I greatly enjoyed it. Eric spoke and I loved the information he had. He had a great visual, a pyramid of the different programs, and it made it just seem so clear to me. And I'm anxious for the next one. I enjoyed the interview process, getting to learn about the other two candidates and appreciate everybody offering up their time and effort, and welcome, Mark. That's it.
Okay, I'm gonna go to Andy. Jess.
So like Jeannie, I attended the Thrive Coalition meeting and wanted to share congratulations to Haley, being the recipient of Prevention Award of Excellence. And then a reminder that the community survey is now up and available for everyone to take. That really drives the coalition work. So the more people that take that, the more accurate they can pinpoint what needs to be done in the community. And then the Guiding Good Choices parenting classes are set to start Tuesday, October 5th, and that goes for 5 weeks, and it's 2 hours each Tuesday, and it's free. So I know I'm scheduled or registered to take that, and just invite anyone else that is interested to get signed up for that. And then, like Jamie mentioned, Eric Perez did give an excellent presentation on migrant and bilingual program. And I was actually going to see if he could perhaps give that to during one of our board meetings. Just went really in depth into the diversity and culture in our area, from Yakima Nation through the Bracero program and migrant ed program starting in 1966. And it was just really well done. So I would love to see that in this audience. And then I am attending the Wazda meetings on Thursdays at noon, but I also attended the Wazda regional meeting, which we usually are able to travel to, and weren't able to do that. So it was on Zoom, but it was all about the nominations for committees happening right now. And then they shared the new Department of Health dashboard and some specifics on the demographics tab that we can look at. And Wazda continues to work closely with Department of Health and OSPI on the guidance on quarantining and closures and what that looks like for districts and what we are required to do and need to be mindful of. And then a lot of it was also about the General Assembly that's coming up October 29th and 30th, and I'll be attending that as our voting delegate. So I'm starting to look at the Assembly documents, that the packet for that, and I'll be sharing that with the board so that you guys can give me input for how you would like me to vote during the General Assembly.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'd just like to say thank you for giving me this opportunity for next 2 months to hopefully be a productive part of the team and also have impact. And I've become very encouraged by the direction that Prosser School District is going, and I'm just happy to be a part of what's happening. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank
you. And then for mine, it's been a pretty busy week, even 2 weeks, even though a week of it I was gone. But this week I'm part of the Prosser Economic Development Association's Business Recruitment Committee, and so that's always interesting. But we had a good meeting last night, and our PETA board is very it's a very positive board on how we can make changes that are the best for all people that live in our community. Doesn't matter what color you are, what type of a car you drive, but we want to continue to make Prosser just the very best place that there is to live. And so I've enjoyed that work. And then the interview process. The interview process is always, it's always good. And I'm welcoming Mark and for our other two candidates. I'm wishing them the best in the election process because they both are up for election in November. So thank you very much. Oh, and then the other thing is I did talk with Nat. I would like to have our nurses be included in a monthly update on what's happening from their perspective. And so I would like them to be able to be on that track with the directors. So all the directors and SPED director and when Eric gives his reports, I'd like the nurses every month or every 6 weeks or however that works out to provide us with an update on what's working, what, what is needing some additional work on, so that we can all be informed and just keep moving this process forward. And I do respect them. And finally, for the principals, thank you. We have strong leadership in our buildings, and that means everything to all the chaos going on with construction and everything else. Having strong leadership in the building just keeps that ship moving forward, and you all do a wonderful job. So thank you very much. And that's it. Any questions? All right, moving on then to the consent agenda tonight. Oh, student reps, excuse me, it's really small print. Monty, would you like to go first tonight, hon?
Okay. I first off want to start off by apologizing for not being here for the past 2 meetings with school. I've been really busy. With that also being said, I'd like to invite you to 2 of our events that we have coming up. So we have a home game tomorrow against Grandview. We're playing at the stadium. JV is at 4 and varsity is at 6. We will both be at the stadium, so you guys can come and watch us play. This is a month ahead, but just wanted to invite you now in case I forget. For a club I'm in, we're having a trick or trot. It's a run we're gonna do for the community, for one of our clubs. You'll be dressed up in costumes and can like run a course that we're gonna have. It's a 1.5 miles, and that'll be on October 30th at 10:30 in the morning.
Thank you. Is this a fundraiser, the Trick or Trot? Is that a fundraiser for an event that you're planning?
Yes, it's for one of our new clubs at the high school. It just started last year. It's called HOSA. It's like it helps our students get prepared for like medical taping, knowing about the body and stuff like that. We can help our athletes as well, like if they need ankle taping, hand taping, or something. Like it's kind of like it's kind of like help off, like if you're yeah, sports medicine, sorry. But yeah.
Great, thank you. Hannah, would you like to go next?
So first, I'd like to share that Phs Drama Club has started rehearsals for our fall production, Horatio Will Be Late. In short, it's the story of a high school theater company trying to put on a production of Hamlet, except everything that could possibly go wrong does. The performances, plural, will be in mid-November. And second, the band is preparing to go to the Leavenworth Parade this Saturday. We have been marching. I'm certain that some of you have heard us practicing in the parking lot. It's been an adventure.
Thank you. Anders?
I'd like to report 2 things. Well, no, 1 thing. Tomorrow on Saturday, there's going to be a balloon rally breakfast at the Psat High School Commons. It's from 7 to 11 a.m. And we'll be serving 2 waffles, syrup, whipped cream, red and white sugar crystals, 2 slices of bacon, 2 leaves of sausage, hash browns, orange juice, apple juice, coffee, and tea. And NHS students are selling tickets. So if you like to purchase a ticket, which are $6, you can speak to me after the meeting.
Okay. Thank you. Does anybody have any questions for our student reps? All right, moving along. Thank you very much. Consent items. I would entertain a motion to approve the consent items as presented.
I'll make a motion to accept the consent items as presented.
Is there a second to that?
I will second them.
Oh, Andy, okay. Thank you. So motion by Jeannie, seconded by Andy. Any questions on the consent items? Okay, hearing none. All in favor of accepting the consent items as presented, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, so all yes. All right, on to action items. Vouchers and payroll.
Move to,
Go ahead.
move to approve the vouchers and payroll as presented.
I will second.
Motion by Andy, seconded by Jesselyn. Any questions by the board members? All right, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 And Mark, that's something that Craig will work with you on. That's, yeah, and Craig, Mark, that's something Craig will work with you on, kind of understanding how that process goes, and I can help you with that also. Okay, the next action item is the adoption of policy number 2195, academic acceleration, and this is the second reading. I would entertain a motion to accept the policy as presented.
Move to accept adoption of policy number 2195, academic acceleration.
Is there a second to that?
I'll second.
Motion by Jesselyn, second by Jeannie. Any questions by the board? Do you have anything you need to add to that, Deanna?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Again, it really is already our current practice, but it's formalized in policy.
Okay, so we have a motion by Jesselyn, second by Jeannie. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Okay, so all yes. Thank you. Our next board meeting is, at this point, is October 13th. It'll be here at Housen Middle School at 7 o'clock. And then our second meeting for the month is scheduled for October 22nd. And that's also here at Housen Middle School. If there's no other business by the board, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion by Jesselyn,
Second.
seconded by Jeannie. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Oh, yes, thank you. Thank you. Thank you for coming tonight.